If you started saving early enough, you too could become a millionaire. Learn the financial tips that can make you rich. Next on Living Smart. Hello, I'm Patricia Gras. Welcome to Living Smart, a new series about getting the most out of life. Today, independent financial resource consultant Laury Adams coaches us on how to live smart with money and what you need to know about Social Security. Have pen and paper ready and we'll give you resources at the end of the program. Jessica Jimenez is a normal teenager. She loves music, dancing and shopping. But recently, she began acting like an adult about a very serious matter.
36, 37, 38.
Money.
39, 40, 41, 42.
That's because she learned a very important lesson after a presentation by money coach Laury Adams.
I put them in the back. I started earning money for each dollar bill that came into my hands. I saved a penny, and since I started, I saved $38.78.
I've done a lot of reading in life and also a lot of research on people who are successful with money, and I found that there are about 5 different concepts, and so I teach the children these concepts, and I tell them, this will help you be a millionaire by the time you retire.
Jessica's parents and siblings also caught her saving fever and Laury's lessons.
When my daughter came and taught us about savings, we got ourselves into action. From the first penny, little by little, we are accumulating money. So we all 7 of us, have something to put the money in, Ziploc bags, shoe boxes, piggy banks. We all want more.
Hi, Jim. How you doing?
Laury Adams has been coaching clients since 1979, but unlike most financial consultants, she sells knowledge, not products.
I felt she always put my interests first. It was a fee-paid deal, and I even asked her to speak at our church one time, and they were surprised that she had no axe to grind there. Wasn't even promoting her own services, but was just telling them how the cow ate the cabbage for people our age, you know.
See where you are now, Jim.
That's because Laury has a soft spot for the most vulnerable in society, children and the elderly. Yet she coaches all ages.
I call myself the widget of Houston because I don't sell anything and I don't manage people's money. So what I really try to do is to empower people by providing information so they can make wise financial decisions.
She learned how to be financially smart early on from her parents.
I think at the age of 5, as soon as I could put candy on the shelves in my father's store, so I could then be in the Guinness Book of Records as the youngest checkout girl in the nation. I learned to work hard, I learned honesty, and I learned the value of money.
She married young and had 3 children.
I found that to live smart, you have to live poor first. So I learned to be very resourceful. And Gerber's was not on the shopping list. And so instead what I would do is to go to the farmer's market and I'd get fresh vegetables and put them in a food processor.
She went into graduate school to study financial counseling after she did some research on the status of women.
I realized then that some of the decisions that I had made in life would put me into a bag lady status. So I decided maybe I should be employed.
She did her master's thesis on Social Security and then became a crusader to help women get on the right money track.
The title was Women's Knowledge of Social Security and How It Affects Them. So I went back also through the experience that I had had in working with clients, both in divorce and the financial aspects of my business. And I realized that people are affected in so many ways that they don't realize until they start collecting the Social Security.
Laury then became an expert in an area that involves personal and financial conflict, divorce.
I became trained as a mediator, and the mediator acts as a neutral third party. So the people are always in control. We help them make decisions.
Then with a partner, she developed a software program to help people around the country.
I was the first person in the country to develop software to use directly with clients in mediation. The software enables people to prepare before they even see any of the professionals, like an attorney or mediator.
Unexpectedly, after 25 years of marriage, Laury had to use the program for her own divorce process.
I was in a very happy marriage, like this will never happen to me, like everybody else. It will never happen to me. But it did. And so I really had to walk the talk. I hooked my husband up to a computer, and that's how we did it. It was not easy at all.
But Laury has no regrets. She likes to teach about money because it has such a great impact on people's lives.
I'm certainly proud of the classes that I've taught. I'm proud that I have empowered clients to take control of their own lives and know about investments and take care of themselves. She wants the car.
Oh, amen.
Laury Adams, welcome to Living Smart.
Thank you, Patty.
You mentioned in the story the 5 concepts that you teach children. I really want to know what those are.
Well, I teach children and I teach adults as
Everybody.
well, because I found that if people do these 5 things, they'll always be successful with money. The first would be setting goals and planning. You need to think about your short-term, your intermediate, and also your long-term goals. The next one would be prioritizing. So you want to prioritize within boundaries. So boundaries would be a concept also that you want to know about. You make choices within those boundaries. Then
Give me examples of that. I'm not clear.
The boundaries would be how much you have to spend.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What do you have to spend?
Right.
And then you make choices with what you do with your money.
Okay.
The next one would be to act. If you make a plan and you don't act on it, the plan is worthless. So you want to act and implement. And then the last would be review and evaluate what worked and what didn't work. You don't want to keep doing the things that don't work.
So can you give me an example of, like, how would you explain that to a child?
Well, what I usually do with children is give them a little card and ask them, first of all, to write down their goals. And then say, how much do you have to spend? What would your allowance be? And what choices would you make with this money? And then when we go out shopping, we take the card along and we look for things. And if they make one choice and it isn't at the top of their list, that's not what they get.
Okay.
At the end, they would, again, review and evaluate by saying, was this what I really wanted? Did this work for me?
Okay. So in a way, it's kind of delayed gratification.
Well, it could be.
I mean, unless they have a lot of money and they can.
It could be.
But you're teaching them about choices. You know,
Right.
if you have a certain
Right.
amount of money, you can spend this much. And we are exploring today living smart with money. What does that mean exactly?
Well, I think living smart with money means being able to provide a certain lifestyle for ourselves throughout the life cycle. And so I developed a concept. It's called lifestyle, lifespan financial management. And what that means is that we have to save some money during our peak earning years in order to provide what may be a quarter of our lives without a paycheck.
Right.
And the closer we get to retirement, the less we have to save for that.
So you're living today to save for tomorrow.
Yes, that's right.
So when you say peak years, what age are we talking about?
Well, usually you start earning around the age of 20 or whenever you get out of college or high school. And then the peak years would probably be between 40 and 50. And then it could taper off.
Is there a certain way that we should be thinking about money?
Well, I think it's important to think of our personal finances is the most important business that we'll ever have. It's the most important business we'll own and operate, and we're really like a CEO of that company. And we have to be visionary and plan for success.
What's the first step, let's say?
Well, like any business, the first step might be strategic planning, setting your goals. What are short-term, intermediate, or long-term? I had one couple come in, and the wife and the husband each had their list of goals. At the top of the wife's list was to live debt-free. and to pay off their credit cards. The top of the husband's list was to provide for the children's education. But after negotiating and discussing this, they decided that their short-term and intermediate goals would be to get rid of the creditors. And then after that time, whatever money they were paying the creditors could go towards college education.
Right, right. We hear a lot about budgets and how important that is. Is that something you should start early on in life?
Absolutely. A budget can be like a roadmap, but the first thing we have to know there is what is the boundary of the budget. What do you have to spend? And a lot of people look at their gross income and say, oh, this is what I have to spend. But actually, it's that amount, less your Social Security, your federal taxes, and any kind of mandatory withholding.
What are some of the questions that a good budget would answer, for example?
Well, sometimes people wonder, what can I pay for a car? What kind of vacation can I take? What kind of house can I buy? And they'll come to me and say, what can I afford for this? And my answer is, I don't know. And they go, well, why don't you know? And I said, because it's based on your values. And a budget is like a financial jigsaw puzzle. And they're different size pieces for different categories. And so you have to get those all to fit together. If you're going to pay for a private school for your kids, you may not be able to buy as big a car.
Right, so you have to prioritize.
Right.
Is it more important to budget at a certain age than another, or?
Well, it can be important at any age. Certainly, if you're planning for retirement, a financial advisor would have to know how much you would need for that retirement. I had one couple who were paying off student loans for their children when they retired, so their budget had to be cut. Another was a college graduate who came in. His mother had given him a gift of a consultation. And when we put together his budget, he had $3,000 a month gross, which looked like a very big amount. But then it was only $2,400 after we took away the taxes and Social Security. Well, he had a car accident and he had a traffic ticket, so he was in a high-risk category for that. He also had $2,000 on credit cards, and he wanted to play golf. Well, he said, looking at this, I guess I better get my car insurance, and I guess I better pay off my creditors, but that means that I have too much month left at the end of the money. So
right.
He really had to cut off some of the golfing.
I hear a good rule is to save 6 months worth of income for sure for any type of eventuality or something that may come up unexpectedly. What do you think of that rule?
Well, it's a good rule. Yes.
But not everybody can do it, right?
That's right.
Expenditures. How do you know if you have a positive or negative cash flow? Do you have a system to figure that out?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do, because after working with people for over 20 years in their finances, I've developed what I call the quick cash flow test. It's a TDS test, and I can tell without looking at any numbers whether a person is in negative or positive cash flow. So your viewers might like to take our little test. The first one would be taxes. Did you owe the IRS last April 15th without having saved that money for your taxes? If you go, yes, I did owe and I didn't have that money saved, that's a red flag. The
Right.
D is debt. Did you accrue consumer debt over the last 12 months? If it's a yes, it's another red flag. The S is savings. Did you have to dip into your savings over the last 12 months in order to make it? If the answer is yes, it's the third red flag. So any of those could mean that you're in negative cash flow. All of them, definitely you're in negative cash flow.
Sounds like most Americans.
A lot of them.
How do you help people determine the difference between wants and needs when it comes to money?
Well, it just depends. That's an entirely personal choice, I think, and based on their values.
The use of credit. What do you think of the use of credit? How does a credit record affect your finances?
It could affect it drastically. I say credit is either a tool or a trap, but it can also be a valuable asset. But it can determine what you would pay for car insurance. It might determine whether or not you get a job, whether or not you can buy a house and get a house loan. So you always want to protect your credit.
And how do we keep a good credit?
Well, I would say, first of all, that you want to plan and then purchase, but so many people purchase and then they go, how am I going to plan for this? So,
do you have any stories about that?
Yes, sometimes they'll come in and they'll have just bought a new car and they go, now how do I pay for it? But you want to fit it into your budget first and say, where is this going to fit in the categories of expenditures? You also want to be sure that you know about contractual liability. You don't want to sign for somebody else's purchases, and you don't want to let them use your credit card. And probably the most important thing is being able to pay at least the minimum before the due date. I had one man come in, he goes, Laury, why did I get a bad credit record? He goes, I pay off all my credit cards every single month. But when we looked at it, he never paid attention to the due date. And so even though he was paying off the entire amount every month, he paid it late.
We all tend to do that sometime or another.
Well, once in a while is okay, but you don't want to do it all the time.
Can we check our credit record for free?
Yes, now you can. There's what's called the Fair and Accurate Credit Transaction Act. And if you go into annualcreditreport.com, it's the site that the credit reporting agencies sponsor so that you can check your credit record for free every 12 months. But I would suggest also that you use myfico.com, which is the scoring agency, and that way you can find out your credit score, which often determines how the lenders view you.
When should we start? We keep hearing, if you start saving young enough, a certain amount of money, you can become a millionaire by the time you're 65. How old should you be, and how much should you start saving?
Well, Patty, so often people think they have to have a big lump sum to take to the bank to save, and I say, no, that isn't right. The main thing, I think, is to establish the saving habit. So when I talk to even the children in middle school and elementary school, I ask them, could you commit to saving 1 cent of every dollar that comes in your hand? And so usually they will commit to doing that. So if you save 1 cent of every dollar, it really establishes the saving habit. And that's what we want.
But I've read that if you, for example, start saving when you're 18 years old, $2,000 a year, if you continue that trend by the time you're 65,
you would have well over $1 million if you could compound that at 10%. So let's say you start saving at the age of 18. Between 18 and 30, $2,000 a year, you would save $26,000. By the time you're 65, even though you've stopped saving at the age of 30, you'd have well over $1 million, $1,300,000 something.
So the key issue there is start early.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
What are the most common mistakes people make when it comes to managing their finances?
Well, if you look at cash flow, I think probably the most important or probably the most common mistake is that people don't plan for their irregular expenses. And you'll have car repair, you'll have birthday gifts, birthday parties, holiday gifts. You might have medical expenses. Usually what I suggest that people do is to add up all your irregular expenses in 1 year's time, divide by 12, and save that amount every month. In other words, if they came to $6,000, you would divide that by 12 and save $500 a month.
And what are some of the common myths about financial planning?
One of the greatest myths about financial planning, I think, is that if you can just find somebody and turn your money over to that person, then you have no more worries. So I think the most important thing you can do then is to really monitor your investments. Even if you have let somebody else manage your money, you must monitor, and you must look at those investments during some of the worst times. You know, we came through a period of a bad stock market where from the high in year 2000 to the low in 2002, the S&P 500 had dropped 47%. And a lot of times people just didn't even open their investment envelopes during those times. But you have to know how your investments are performing at the worst times and that will protect you.
Do you have a rule of a time when to get out? Let's say you have money in the stock market. If it drops a certain amount, should you be getting out? I mean, do you have any rules about that?
Well, my biggest rule would be to always have investments that are appropriate for you, and always have enough of a supplement for your cash flow available, so that you don't have to get out in a low market. It's always buy low, sell high, but you mean, people don't do that.
By that you mean diversity. Diversify your investments.
Diversify, but stay in if you have good investments. And then monitor along the way. If you're looking at your investments every 6 months, you know if they're appropriate or not for you. So if they're appropriate, you just sit in during those bad times.
Let's talk about investment, because we hear so many different types of information. Invest in mutual funds, stocks, no load, load. What do you know about investing in safer investments? And also the fees that are being charged today is something to look at that most people may not know about. Like, explain no load mutual funds as opposed to load mutual funds.
Well, let's look at the mutual funds there. And the fee funds would be sold through certain advisors who are getting commissions or some kind of money for the transactions that they make. The no-load funds are mutual funds sold directly by the companies like Fidelity, Vanguard, T. Rowe Price. As far as low risk, you can again look to see how those funds performed during those 3 bad years when the market was in the negative. And if you look during those years, you'll know what kind of a risk you have.
What advice do you give people that maybe can't afford a financial resource consultant or a financial planner, and they want to do the research on their own? There's so much information out there, but who do you trust?
Well, even the magazines, it's hard to know and to trust. So, again, I think what you can do is look at performance, Patty. Look at the performance annually, and don't look just at the averages, because sometimes the averages distort the volatility of an investment.
Exactly. Social Security, that's a big issue for you. You're going to be traveling all over the country to teach people about what is it that that people don't know about Social Security or not thinking about, that we need to start thinking about?
Well, I think the future. And a lot of the young people say, oh, but Social Security isn't going to be there for me. Well, we don't know for sure. But let's look at the people right now who are retired. The average Social Security benefit per month is $955. If you need $2,000 a year to live on, that means you've got to make up another $1,000. Social Security makes up 1/2 of the retirement income for 1/2 of the population. So let's just say then that you need an extra $1,000. That would mean that at 5%, you would need $240,000, making 5%, to supplement your Social Security by $1,000. And that would give you about $2,000 to live on per month. So Social Security can be very, very important to one's future, and I think it's something that should not be disregarded.
So what are your issues with Social Security? I mean, I know that it would take us days to discuss that, but in short, what is it that people need to start looking at when it comes to Social Security?
Well, they need to look at their statement that comes annually now. So that's one way to get information. Also, the Social Security system has a great website at socialsecurity.gov. And I am giving programs on the Social Security system.
How do you know you're living smart?
Well, I think you're living smart when you feel good about your money. You know, that's the most important thing, that we know that we're living within our means and that we can take care of ourselves for the rest of our lives. So living smart today definitely means living well tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Laury Adams, for joining us. We really appreciate you having. And for more information on Laury Adams and to find out about her presentations on Social Security around the nation, you can call 713-861-3426. That's 713-861-3426. Or visit her website at divorceinfo.com. Another website for money-saving tips is frugalliving.about.com. Or you can call Dollar Stretcher at 941-7200. 941-761-7805. That's 941-761-7805. Please remember to visit houstonpbs.org/livingsmart for a complete resource list, and feel free to share your own tips on saving money and becoming a millionaire. We'll post some on our website. You can call us at 713-743-8513 or email us with your comments at livingsmart@houstonpbs.org. I'm Patricia Gras, and that's our show for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and remember to live smart. Have a great week.